Make sure that we understand that the Father now, at this beginning stage, he's dealing with Abraham, the exalted father, and we're now supposed to be in the living image of our forefathers. The Father now is beginning to now begin his first stages of dealing with the nation of Yashra'al. The nation is not there yet, but we have a beginning stage where the Father's now beginning to make, which is very important, a covenant. All right, a covenant. That is very important that we understand the covenants. Now, like we had already asked, who is this multitude of people? And we made mention that this multitude of people is the nation of Yashra'al. We're going to go to the book of Bereshit, the 15th chapter, verse 5. Verse 5. And he, who is the he? Well, let me read it first. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now towards Shamayim, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. Now, and he, who would be the he? Okay, so the father of Yahuah brought him, which is who? Brought him forth and said, Look now towards Shamayim, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. Let's go to the book of Devarim. The book of Deuteronomy, the 26th chapter. Let's see if we can identify who is this multitude of people. 26, I'm going to read verses 17 through 19. 17 through 19. We've all read this before, so this should be extremely easy. It says, Thou hast avouched. The word avouched means to acknowledge or to confess. To acknowledge or to confess. Thou hast avouched Yahuah this day to be thy Elohim. So we have confessed this day that the Father of Yahuah will be our husband, because another word for Lord, you don't have to be afraid of the word Lord. Another word for the word Lord is what?
Husband.
Right, husband. So we see now that this is a marriage, and the marriage is based upon a covenant. All marriages must be based upon a covenant. Thou hast confessed to Yahuah this day, thy Elohim, to walk in his ways and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and to hearken unto his voice. Now, that word commandments now. The very first time that we hear that the Father is making a commandment or a covenant is with who? With who? Abraham. This is the reason why I wanted everybody to understand that word nations, which I say a better translation would be people. All right, people. The Father's making a covenant with Abraham. It must be manifested or made to be manifest. And so he's going to be dealing with a particular people. We see that the Father now brought the nation of Yashra'al out of Egypt. He's bringing them now to, we get into this later, a particular mountain, and he's making a covenant with these people based upon the covenant that he made with Abraham. We're all good. Okay. And his judgments, and to hearken to his voice. And Yahuah has avouched, confess. So we have the word confess used twice here. So we have now the nation of Yashra'al agreeing to the covenant. And we have now the Father agreeing to the covenant. So both parties must agree. And when both parties agree, it now becomes binding. It's binding. And this is the way that we should also now be operating in our relationships with one another. When the Isha says I do, the groom says I do, it now becomes a binding, everlasting contract. Everlasting. Again, We all know this. The reason why we say everlasting, when the Father is dealing with the nation of Yashra'al, how many husbands did the Father espouse his bride to?
Just himself.
One, right?
Yeah, just himself.
All right, let's turn it up here. The Father has espoused one wife or one husband to the bride. Now, in your relationship, how many husbands did you each espouse you to? One. Okay, absolutely. I'm just trying to share, it's not a trick question. I'm just trying to share that multiple partners was never the zone. Never the zone. One too many partners is one too many. The whole thing now is about the Father being a jealous Elohim, and we're to have no other Elohim besides him. So that the way that the Father is operating now with his bride is the same way that we must operate with our bride. We told? All right. So now, watch this again now. And Yahuah has avouched this day, this day, to be his peculiar people, Segula, as he has promised you, and that thou shouldst keep all of his commandments, and to make thee high above all nations. Okay, the word nations there, when you type on the icon there, I just want to make sure. Do you have the word the ayin in the mem there? Yay, nay? What word do you have?
Nations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gimel and the Resh.
The Gimel and the Resh. What is the Gimel and the Resh?
No.
Gimel, Resh, and
The Yod.
the Yod.
And the Yod. Bari.
Nah, that's the Gimel, it's the U, or the Bob, and the Yo.
Okay, what do you have here
In the
now?
middle.
You have the Gimel.
The Gimel, then you have the U, or the Bob, and then you have the Yo.
And the Yod. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, so when you get that definition, do you see the word people? Is the word people in there? Because another word that they use for nation is the ayin and the mental feet. Oh, okay, gotcha. So I just want us to be able to identify what people, because there's a lot of people in a lot of different nations out here. So what we're trying to do is narrow it down and let everybody understand that he's dealing with a particular people. He was at the mount, made this covenant, this wedding agreement with not everybody, on the planet Earth. Not everybody on the planet Earth. These particular people were the nation, or is the nation of Yashra'al. Because somebody said, not here, is that the New Testament is, the Old Testament, the way that they had it. The Old Testament is for, I'll just say it the way that they had it. That's for blacks, dark-skinned people, and African Americans. That's what the Old Testament is about. But the New Testament is about Gentiles, meaning every single body. But then the question then comes now, in the Old Testament, there was a divorce, where Northern Kingdom was given a bill of divorce, and we know that Southern Kingdom was eventually kicked out of the house too. So what happens now to the reunification? If the New Testament is only talking about the other people, the other nations, the question then becomes, when does the reunification come with Northern and Southern Kingdom? What happened to the promise that the Father made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? What happens to that? People say, listen, that the nation of Yashra'al, they fell by the wayside. The Father couldn't keep his promise, so he said, listen, the heck with the nation of Yashra'al, I'm going to be dealing with somebody else now. which is the Christian church, which is replacing theology because they don't understand the writings of Shaul. Okay, verse 19, and to make thee high above all people which he hath made. And again, the Father will make us high above all people which he hath made. He will make us high above all people that he hath made in praise, and in name, and in honor, that thou mayest be a set apart people unto Yahuah thy Elohim, as he has spoken. So, when the Father speaks a thing, will it return to him void?
No.
All right, hallelujah. Let's go to the second book of Samuel, or 2 Samuel, Shemuel. We want to see and make sure that we understand who are these people that the Father made this covenant with. And are we talking about other people? Samuel, 2 Samuel, the 7th chapter. The 7th chapter, I'm going to read verses 23 and 24. 23 and 24. And what one nation? This is the question. And what one nation in the earth is like your people? So you see how it kind of like narrows it down now? Because if you see nations, Abraham should be the, this covenant that the Father's making with Abraham. Other people, as long as they're following the covenant, they can be attached to it. But first things first, the Father made a covenant with the nation of Yashra'al. Now watch this now. And what one nation in the earth is like your people, even like Yashra'al, whom Elohim went to redeem. So we are a redeemed people, for a people unto himself. So you see how personal the relationship is? To make him a name and to do for you great things and terrible for thy land, before your people which thou redeemest to you from Egypt, from the nations and their Elohims. Verse 24, thou hast confirmed, the word confirmed is going to be very important, for thou hast confirmed to thyself your people Israel to be a people unto you forever. Forever means forever. It doesn't mean now when we get to the New Testament that it's done away with. We are still the apple of the Father's eye.
That's right.
He has not forgotten his bride. We've forgotten our husband. That's the problem. For thou hast confirmed to thyself your people Israel to be a people unto thee forever. And thou art Yahuah Elohim, thou art become our Elohim, Almighty One. We're going to go to 1 Kings, the 8th chapter. 1 Kings, the 8th chapter. Verse 53. And I'm going to apologize. Akoti, your name slips my mind right now, but Shaul's Ishar. Shaul, Ishar, we're going to have her read 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, verse 53. Nice and loud for the camera. Everybody wants to hear you. Shaul wants to hear you. So let's let Shaul hear you nice and clear.
For thou didst separate them.
Separate? Again, we want to dissect this, all right? We don't want to go too fast because I want everybody to see how this is a personal relationship. So one more time for me, please.
For thou didst separate them from among all the people of the earth, to be thine inheritance, as thou spakest by the hand of Moses thy servant, whom thou broughtest our fathers out of Egypt, O Yahuah Elohim.
Hallelujah. Very good. So, for thou didst separate, the word separate is going to be very important. The them is the nation of Yashra'al from all the people of the earth. That's personal. To be thine inheritance, as thou spokest by the hand of Moshe thy servant, when thou broughtest our fathers out of Egypt. Our husband is Yahuah Elohim. First Chronicles, the 17th chapter. First Chronicles, the 17th chapter, verses 20 to 21. And we're going to get a Koti Shemai. We haven't heard from her in a while. And she's going to do for us, please, First Chronicles, the 17th chapter, verses 20 to 21. We want to do it nice and slow so we can dissect. And for us to understand that this is an intimate relationship that the Father is trying to have with us, all right? It's very important that we understand that, because tomorrow is going to be a very big day, all right? Do your best, bring your best. This is a wedding rehearsal. And any woman knows when you have your bridesmaids, you're checking on your bridesmaids every single week until that day happens. When you order the dresses, you want to make sure that your bridesmaids don't gain no weight, all right, because everything is set. And that bride, she wants to make sure that everything is nice and neat, that the women now are walking down the aisle, okay, in unison and in harmony. She don't want nobody stumbling. She don't want nobody fussing and arguing. She don't want everybody's hair, the makeup, the whole 9 yards. Everything has to be exact. Because she wants to be presentable for her husband. So why not do the best now for the Father? All right, so Shemai, if you can do that for me, please. First Chronicles, the 17th chapter, verse 20 to 21.
First Chronicles 17 and 20. O Yahuah, there is none like thee, neither is there any Elohim besides thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears.
Hallelujah. So let's stop right there. O Yahuah, or our husband, there is none like our husband. Neither is there any Elohim besides you, according to all that we have heard with our ears. Where is the first time that you begin to hear a statement like that? Listen to it real closely. O Yahuah, there is none like you. Neither is there any Elohim besides you. When is the first time that we hear that argument, but that being proclaimed to the nation of Yashra'al? Exodus, the 20th chapter. Remember, you should have no other Elohim besides me. That is part of the wedding ketubah contract. You are to put no other man before your man. None. Absolutely none. And the Ish now is supposed to also now respect his Isha, because they work in unison together. Just like Moreh shared, that his Isha is in unison with them. She's in one accord with them. And so she says, listen, baby, boo, whatever little pet word that she uses, you know. And so she has the lamb chops and the rice and you know, the whole 9 yards and the spinach, you know, everything is good. So again, just wanted to share that with us, with everybody in Mishpachah, that this is a family, this is unity, and we're just trying to share now that the relationship that the Father has with his bride is the same type of relationship that we're supposed to have with our significant others. Read on, please. One more verse. 21.
And what nation in the earth is like thy people?
So what bride is like the nation of Yashra'al? Read on.
Whom Yahuah went to redeem to be his own people, to make thee a name of greatness and terribleness, by
what was the final plague that the Father sent amongst the Egyptians to redeem the nation of Yashra'al? What was the last thing that became the sacrificial, redeeming property that redeemed the nation of Yashra'al out of Egypt? Right, killing the firstborn. So Israel was redeemed by the blood of the firstborn. So we were not bought with money, jewelry, cars, houses, businesses, watches, none of that. Okay? We had to be redeemed by blood. And the most important thing about the blood, inside of the blood is the life, and the Father is dealing with firstborns. Just like Ezekiel said, the firstborn. What is the most important, let's see. What establishes your name? The firstborn, right? So what happened now was that the Father destroyed the firstborn, and by the blood of those were you redeemed out of the first bondage, which is Egypt. But we're going to have some better blood than that in the next one. What already happened, but the Father's going to send His Son now to actually redeem His people. You're kidding me. Okay? The book of Psalms 105. Let's go with Torah. The book of Psalms 105.
I also like to interject.
Sure.
Where what's interesting is how you started out with Abraham, and the first thing you took us to is the covenant, and how you see covenant established all throughout the writings.
Yep.
And it's interesting when people say that now when you get to the New Testament, that now it's about all of the nations, but you can never get them to show you anywhere in those writings where He entered into covenant with any of these nations they claim to say that now He's dealing with them.
Exactly. This is a personal relationship. All right? There's no other people like the nation of Yashra'al, and this will be trying to share here. Who is the multitude of people? And we're identifying that this multitude of people that the scriptures is talking about is the nation of Yashra'al. If you don't have a foundation, what can you stand on? Because we can't take away and do away with the what they're calling the Old Testament, the Tanak. You need a foundation. If you were to tear down the foundation of this building here, how can there be a second floor? You need a foundation. You can never tear or do away with the foundation. Never, ever, ever. The book of Psalms, 105, 8 through 15. 105, 8 through 15.
He hath remembered His covenant forever.
Right, for He hath remembered His covenant forever. Read on.
The word which He commanded to 1,000 generations.
That's a long time. We are not nowhere near 1,000 generations. Read on.
Which covenant He made with Abraham.
With who?
Abraham.
All right.
And His oath unto Isaac. And confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for the everlasting covenant. Saying unto thee, I will give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance, when they were but a few men in number, ye very few and strangers in it. When they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another